Good evening, and welcome back to Ron Celtic Fans View this evening. Just wait till everyone gets caught up with the adverts and such like, and then we'll get into the video this evening. Let's see who is all online. First of all, Green Machine is in the house. Good evening, Barry, and fellow Celts. Paul Imrie is in the house. Hail, hail, boys and girls. Tam Mack is in the house, and also is Lorna. Good evening to you, Lorna. And Paul Emily says, "Hail, hail, Mrs. G." Mrs. G? Who's Mrs. G? It's Scalica. Of course. Right, let's get into the video tonight. We're going to talk about several things. I mentioned that the title of the video is "What Direction Are They Taking, Celtic?" And then it's got a picture of our manager. It's got a picture of our backroom staff that take the training. And the reason I want to talk about it is I'll get into some headlines first of all, and then we'll talk about managers in general and the way that the manager at Celtic is going. There's a reporter today that said that Celtic are going to go for 3 new players in the summer. They're going to make a priority. And he's claiming this is an exclusive. And this is what's wrong with Scottish media. He's claiming this is an exclusive, and it's absolutely nonsense. And it's something that we all know already. He's basically saying that we need a new goalkeeper. I wonder where he got that idea from. And then he said we need the winger. Well, we've just lost a winger in the Bada, so you're going to need to replace him. So it's no brain surgery stuff, is it? And then he says we need a striker. And today is your Scottish media. And there's talk about, obviously, the Liverpool goalkeeper coming in at 15 million. There's no chance Celtic will pay 15 million for absolutely anybody. But anyway, we move on from that. Alan, leave that story. And another news headline that's came out today is Carlton Palmer. Remember him? Carlton Palmer. He's been talking down south, and he says that a Celtic player could leave in the summer for a fee of up to £3 million. And that's Mikey Johnston. He reckons with Sunderland and Norwich in the mention for the football player, West Brom also in for him, it could cost anyone £3 million. £3 million. Could you imagine getting £3 million for Mikey Johnston? Somebody somewhere's got to be laughing. Somebody somewhere has to be laughing. Could you imagine getting £3 million for Mikey Johnston after all the years that he's been at Celtic? And put it this way: we got £2 million. Right, here's a thought: we got £2 million for a player that only had 6 months left on his contract. Mikey Johnston will still have a year left on his contract, so maybe £3 million. You're maybe talking right, because we managed to get £3 million for David Turnbull. And David Turnbull hadn't done much over the last couple of years. So anyway, that's an interesting one. It's an interesting story. I just thought I would share with you this evening. Anyway, today it came out in the news that defensive, absolutely titan that we have in Cameron Carter-Vickers is expected to make a comeback. He's expected to make the game this weekend, which we're all thankful of, because let's face it, our defence is rank rotten. We're letting in far too many goals. But it has been said that Brendan Rodgers is optimistic that Cameron Carter-Vickers will be back this weekend. And he expressed his confidence in the fact that he should be fine, and it was precautionary. Let's just hope it's not precautionary and it costs us. Anyway, I'm going to talk about managers now, right? I'm going to talk about managers. I'm going to talk about the way that Celtic are going as a club. I'm going to talk about the way that Celtic are going as a club, because when you look at the manager and you look at the cards that he's been dealt, does Brendan Rodgers, who's allegedly an elite manager, does an elite manager become bad overnight? Does an elite manager become bad overnight? Do they lose their Midas touch? You could say that they do when you look at the late, well, not the late, but the great Jose Mourinho. Everything that he touched used to turn to gold, and in the sort of best part of his career, and then he's never really done much, has he? When you look at one coach that Celtic had, so a coach that Celtic had has now managed to get his current team, into the later stages of the Champions League in Asia. Yep, Harry Kewell has got the Yokohama F. Marinos into the later stages of the Champions League. And that's an unbelievable thought. I mean, what could he have done at Celtic with some good players in the team? Now, I've no idea the standard of the Asia Cup. I have no idea, but it's their version of the Champions League. But the fact that Dyson Myra wrote, "Congratulations to Harry Kewell," signalling sort of a head nod to his appreciation to Harry for what he's doing with his old team. It's interesting that you look at the standard and what Harry Kewell is now doing. And if you look at the way that our wingers now aren't performing as good as they did after Harry Kewell left. When Harry Kewell left, you can definitely see that our wingers are not achieving half as what they did the previous couple of seasons. Now, another manager that I want to talk about, I want to talk about Carl Starfelt, because he left to head over to Spain following his missus, and he ended up in Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo, and you're saying, why am I talking about Celta Vigo? Well, because their manager is Rafa Benitez. And Rafa Benitez was once hailed as a fantastically great manager. He was once hailed as a fantastically great manager. He won the Champions League. He did win the Champions League, of course, which then does make him an elite manager. It makes him up there as one of the elite managers. And he took Liverpool to the Champions League in 2005. And he is on the he's just been sacked, hasn't he? He's just been sacked. He's just been sacked because when you look at Celta Vigo are sitting in 17th in La Liga. And you're saying, well, why is that such a thing? Well, the teams that are below them are the teams that came up last season. The likes of Cadiz, Granada, and Almeria. Almeria is just a little sleepy town on the coast that doesn't have a big population. They were expected to go out. Granada, well, people go to Granada for the skiing. Granada's known for the ski resort. And Cadiz, well, people go to Cadiz just for the food. Those three teams were expected to go down this year. Celta Vigo, with Rafa Benitez, was not expected to be anywhere near the relegation zone. Rafa Benitez was an elite manager who's won the Champions League. And the theme that I'm going with was that is, can an elite manager become bad? Well, under Brendan Rodgers, we have certainly got a lot worse. And has he been given the tools, that people will say? Has he been given the tools? Or has he just not got it anymore? I mean, we don't want to downplay. I mean, in Brendan we trust, and I think Brendan still has it in a manager. I mean, I think as a manager, he's been really unlucky this season with the team that he's had. When you look at the amount of injuries we've had this season, I actually think we've had more injuries this season now than we've had injuries under the first season under Ange Postecoglou, which is interesting. And when you look at the stats, it wouldn't surprise me if there was more time spent on the injury list this season as did Ange Postecoglou. Because Ange Postecoglou, most of his injuries were at the beginning of the season, and he managed to get a lot of the players back in fitness and full squads for the run-in for that season to help us win the league. Does Brendan Rodgers have that capability to turn that around? And I know it's only 2 points, and it's still in our hands, I still say. For the Grand Animated TV programmes. Yes, Boom Boom says, who really cares? I'll get to all the people that were in the comments in just a second. But when you look at the likes of Rafa Benitez, who was an elite manager that's won the Champions League, when you look at Jose Mourinho, that everything that he used to touch would turn to gold when it came to winning things. The slip down the ladder has been quite dramatic for those managers, and we tend to give Brendan Rodgers that he's meant to be this elite manager, even though his last team did get relegated after he got sacked. We have to say that they got relegated after he got sacked, but are these elite type of managers past it? And where does it mean that Celtic will go in the future? Because it's highly been spoke about within Scottish football fraternity, and Celtic fans are basically saying, look, if we lose the league, he must go. He must fall on his sword. And then that means that there's another rebuild. But Brendan Rodgers isn't talking like a man that's going to be out the door in the summer. Brendan Rodgers is talking about things that he's looking forward to in the next year, in the next season, and getting players back and being able to work with players. I mean, you look at when Leila Bada left, he spoke about the fact that he's not going to be able to work and make him a better player. And if something doesn't change at managerial level, then must something change in the background? Because we've got the same coaching staff for years now, and they haven't improved things. You can't keep on doing the same thing over and over and again and expect to get better results. And that's the way that I'm thinking is what is going on at Celtic? What direction are Celtic taking us as a club? And it's something that I think the fan base really needs to answer the question. I mean, it's okay saying, oh, we want to win the league and we want to try and get into Europe. But let's think about bigger than the bigger picture of that. And it's like, well, do what? You know, I mean, when we look at other teams that manage to get into Europe and play quite well or get lucky draws or just even get through to the next round, we have underachieved massively, massively over the last 10 to 15 years when it comes to Europe. And no amount of money seems to be able to sort that. No amount of money seems to be able to sort it at all. The fact that Celtic have banked all this money, and maybe we are going to go and spend big. Maybe we are going to go and spend big this summer with a goalkeeper. But it's a position that we know has to be filled. And we have to fill it with the best possible candidate. It's as simple as that. And not somebody that's maybe played good against us a couple of times and played good against us a couple of times in Europe or something, and we think we sign him, and he turns out to be absolute garbage. We need to bring in somebody that's got a bit of experience. Now, the Liverpool keeper, does he have that experience? Playing number 2 at Liverpool, doing all right when he played in the Carabao Cup or whatever it was. But as fans, we need to know the direction that the club is going in. Because bringing out that nice Ireland Adidas kit yesterday was all fine and dandy with it being St. Patrick's Day this weekend. And you can see the irony written across everyone's. I mean, one of the comments from a good author that writes about Celtic and has done many programmes about Celtic, and one of the guys that isn't Celtic media, but he's one of the guys that writes about Celtic on a consistent basis, and I've got a lot of respect for. And he said you couldn't give you fuckers a red neck with a blowtorch on their Twitter feeds. And I thought that was quite funny by Paul. I thought it was quite funny because it's true. So the fact that they're bringing out this merchandise at this late time of the season, and then some of the comments on the Facebook channel is that can we get it on a loan to buy? Can we get it and we'll pay for it in the summer? And things like that. That's interesting. Tell me in the comments about where you think that the Celtic management is taking it, or the Celtic board. Let's face it, is the board that leads us. The board that leads us a merry dance. The board that leads us a merry dance, and they feed us with a manager that then has to put up with any nonsense that comes from the board, and he has to deflect it from the team, and he has to deflect the incapability of the people that's been put in front of him player-wise. And yes, he has to sign the players off, but if he's given a handful of players, for fuck's sake, why is it doing this tonight? Oh. There we go, do that. That does that again, let's get sacked. Anyway. It's quality when it does that. It is quality when it does that. I'm going to get a fixed one. Let's just do that and that and that. Anyway, right, let's get back into it as if that never happened. This is what happens on live TV. Naples Brothers is in the house. Right, let's get to some of the comments first of all. Let's get to some more of the comments. And Lorna says, good evening, everyone. Lorna says, good evening, Mrs. G. Michael Ross says, hello, Celtic fans. Leon Miles is in the house. Green Machine, Lorna, Paul James White is in the house. Chilpel's in the house. Who really cares? Hazel67 is in the house. Kieran Brady's in the house. Simon Ireland. Michael Ross, Strange Love Doctor, how are you this evening? Yeah, reporter, yep, exactly. Right, I'm going to skip through some of them and get to some of. If we get beat on Saturday, we're heading down the Cludgy. Stuart Ramsey saw. I thought the dogs were kicking in there. They're always kicking in. There's always something kicking in this channel. Anyway, Stone says teams that you play against learn every year that they came up against Japanese players before. And the backing we couldn't give him. I would love to see what Brendan Rodgers would actually do. Oh, come on. Right, this is the playing ball tonight. I'll put that there. It's going to be a quick video tonight if this keeps playing up. Anyway, we'll put that there, and then that will do that. Technical difficulties, honestly, God. See, the problem when you do live anything. Because you've always got these issues. Feeling sick? Yeah, I am. Anyway, John Jeffrey says the only direction we're going is to the bank. The money's for the shareholders and dividends. Our board, we're gifting our rivals 60 million, and that alone. It's time to go. No direction and no quality. Put that right. Right, proper number 9. Mind up a few Mikey's up whole season. Yes. Sacked in the morning. Lol. Brendan, Celtic are underachieving this season under Brendan Rodgers. Are they underachieving under Brendan Rodgers, or is it the fact that the players aren't just aren't good enough? He's been given a load of players that just aren't good enough, and where does it take him? I mean, we need to know from the club. We need to know from the club exactly where we're going, and the direction. There seems to be a lack of direction, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying there seems to be a big lack of direction for the club. So tell me what you're thinking about that. Especially when you look at elite managers around Europe that maybe were elite at one time but aren't as good anymore. I mean, when you look at that, I mean, I talk about the La Liga because obviously I watch some of the football, but I mean, the three teams that are going down in La Liga, Almeria, Granada, and Cadiz, they were going to go down anyway because they were absolutely. I mean, they've not got the population or the finances to compete in the top league. The fact that Celta Vigo spent quite good money, Celta Vigo should be nowhere down there. Rafa Benitez is a top class manager. Who do we bring in if Brendan Rodgers doesn't win anything? Who do we bring in if Brendan Rodgers doesn't win anything? That's one of the things I want to know. Mike Ross says the wrong direction was taken the moment we appointed Rodgers. Mr. Double Mix says this season's written off. Rodgers is gone in the summer, regardless. The problem is the Celtic board are reactive and not proactive. That is definitely the Celtic board are so reactive. It's unbelievable. There's no forward thinking at all. Definitely no forward thinking. I mean, the fact that they knew Postecoglou, there was a chance of him leaving, and they didn't have another manager that they thought was good enough to come in. And it took our owner to go and phone Rodgers and say, come on, mate, go and come back. Rodgers is utter garbage, but the players, it's the worst Celtic team since the early 90s. The result of Lowell giving his son a job. Like, fuck, he's been removed. Yes, that's true. Celtic is a financial race course. We're fielding a wonky donkey. We are that. And Desmond Donnelly says, big spending this year will be totally different. Look for our club next season. Hopefully, like a club, we don't struggle. Struggle. That's what Celtic seem to do every year. But will we bring in players that will manage to make some kind of impact in Europe? This is what we're on with. He's on the camera and he's talking with his left hand. Yeah, I'm putting the camera. It's fucking wait a minute while I sort this. This thing does it again. There we go. Even asked. Kevin McKenna. Kevin McKenna to replace Brendan Rodgers. Really? Kevin McKenna to replace Brendan Rodgers. That's an interesting one. Strangelove Doctor, that's an interesting list. Right, let's see Strangelove Doctor. Goodson, Muscat, Kevin Muscat. Really? Would you go down that road for somebody that used to play for Rangers? That's an interesting one. Alicia and Gallardo. Interesting. Duct tape or fix it. Seriously, the cameraman needs sacked. Yes, he does. I need to get a fixed one rather than the gimbal that is there just now. Why does he not play James Ave as the best at our club? I have no idea. I really have no idea. Why doesn't he play James Forrest? If James Forrest is the best winger at the club, why doesn't he play him for 60 minutes every game? Play James. I would rather play James Forrest for 60 minutes and get a good 60 minutes out of him and make sure that we win games comfortably, or at least we achieve things in the game, and then bring on the other players. Bleed the other players in. They might be younger than James Forrest, and they might have better stamina than James Forrest to last the 90 minutes. But when it comes to it, James Forrest made a massive difference in the last game. So I think that the camera's pulled the hamstring. Yes, the camera's pulled the hamstring, and the dog wants it as well. Oh, off. Right, there you go. See? Right, the dog's away, thank goodness. Muscat hardly played for them. I know he hardly played for them, but would you really take it? Wouldn't he fancy Moyes? I wouldn't. Would you really take Moyes? I mean, he'd done it in Europe. I think David Moyes, he almost had the job before, and then Brendan Rodgers got it. So I don't know. Baz, don't care where the manager or player comes from. I'm just selecting fellas that play the Celtic way and have been successful. Muscat or Kudson would be perfect to take over from Ange. That's probably the two that I would go down to. I'm not sure about Muscat because, I mean, he's just been following Ange in his career. I don't think that. I'm not too sure. He's not won what Ange won. Kudson, he knows how to do it. I mean, he's been at Brøndby and he knows how to do things. Um, invest in blue tap for the camera. I think that when you look at Kudson, he knows how to get the best of players in Europe, and that's what we need. That's what we need. We need a manager that can come in and help us on the European front. Because if you help us on the European front, you're going to walk the Scottish League. Let's face it, you're going to absolutely walk the Scottish League. If you can get us playing well and achieving things in Europe, you're going to absolutely walk the Scottish League. It's as simple as that. Has Brendan died? No, he's not died, but we're talking about the direction that Celtic are going. The direction that Celtic are going, and is it the right direction? Now, maybe Brendan Rodgers needs some better assistance. When you look at the assistants that we've had the same assistants since Brendan was here the first time. And they've had some kind of success, but then they had the 2021 season where it was an absolute disaster. And they've been the same guys that have been taking training for a while. Do you think that the backroom staff maybe need a freshened up? It's okay freshening up a manager now and again, but sometimes it's good to freshen up the whole backroom staff. And that's the little change of direction that the club needs. Now, understand, I mean, I can see where they're coming from, and they have this stability. They have this stability when you have John Kennedy at the club, and whenever a manager moves on, John Kennedy's still there. But the one common denominator then becomes John Kennedy. It's not the manager. The one common denominator, which is either success or failure, is John Kennedy. And a lot of people have said, well, is John Kennedy going to be manager one day? Well, I hope to God not. I hope to God not. Because working with some great managers doesn't make you a fantastic manager. Although you could say, well, look at the way that Scotland manager's going. Would you go with Stevie Clark? No, I wouldn't go with Stevie Clark. But let's hope it doesn't get to that. Let's hope that Celtic come out and give us some kind of direction that they want to take the club. I mean, with the report coming out and some reporter, and who was it? It was O'Rourke, wasn't it? Peter O'Rourke. Yep. Let me just see. There's the. No, I've got rid of the. Oh, there it is. Peter O'Rourke, yes. Peter O'Rourke has said that Celtic are going to wait for it. Drum roll, they're going to go for a goalkeeper, a winger, and a striker. Fucking amazing that, isn't it? It's journalism at its best. Journalism is, the thing is, he's come out, journalist in the know. Journalist now shares exciting Celtic summer transfer update. Christ. Really, I tell you, that's about. Oh, anyway. Let Brendan build a winning team, says Big Dom. Will he get the money? Yes, a complete clear out, new manager, bringing in his own backroom staff and team. But they've worked 1888. There lies the problem. We went for a manager before Ange Postecoglou that wanted to bring in his backroom staff, and he wasn't allowed to. Ange Postecoglou didn't want to bring any staff with him, so that was fine by Celtic. That was absolutely fine by Celtic. Let's get back to some of the comments. So Baz, mate, something's dodgy going on. I checked into it and unsubscribed. Couldn't comment for 10 minutes. Watching Arsenal confusion. I don't know why that is. No idea. No idea why that would be. Who really cares says, do you think Lenny could come? Not a fucking chance. Are you serious? Come on. Right, talk about Neil Lennon. Right, he left the first time because he couldn't get to the team when we were playing at Celtic Park, 2 finals at Celtic Park. Neil Lennon lost both cup games. Right, he lost. We couldn't get to the finals at Celtic Park. For that, he had to go. For that, he had to go. You remember he lost Alan Thompson, his backroom staff in Big Malby. He lost both them that season also. Now, not a chance should Lenny come back. He came back the second time, and he came back under a Brendan Rodgers team that was flying. So it was pretty easy for him to win the league that season. When he had to do it in his own terms, in his own hands, he lost it again. I wouldn't. He's been there twice. You don't get 3 times. You don't get 3 chances at Celtic. He can't come back to Celtic. That's not. If that's the direction that you want to go as a Celtic fan, that's going backwards. I'm talking about having a vision to take the club forward. That's going backwards. No, that's for me. You can't live off the memory of Neil Lennon beating Barcelona back in 2012 or when it was. You can't live off that memory. You can't keep on thinking that this is the way forward. I mean, Neil Lennon's is always going to be a Celtic legend, but not to come back. He's not to come back. No, not to come back to Celtic. Not a chance. Scottish, not British, says Ernest. Good on you. Lenny knows he can't come back, says Chilpill. He really cares, says, as a coach, not as a manager. No, you can't have Lenny back. Stevie Clark will spend the money. Stevie Clark would spend the money. I love Lenny, but I don't come back. Good luck to him elsewhere. Yep. BR will go nowhere. Little Ireland. Brendan Rodgers. We're not talking about Brendan Rodgers going anywhere. We're talking about the direction, really, that the club has for Celtic. What direction are they taking Celtic in? Because we had this new dawn. Remember when Ange Postecoglou came in, and it was a new dawn, and it's going to be a new Celtic, and it's going to be a new way of running the club from the top to the bottom, and it was going to be all exciting, and it was all focused and geared to doing stuff in Europe, and then he brought in half a team from Asia, and we were kind of successful. But then when you look at the last couple of games, we look at the last 5 games under Ange Postecoglou, he changed the team to a lot of the players that we've got here now, and they were absolutely rank rotten. Now, Ange would have known the ins and out of what we could do transfer-wise, and he's went, bugger that, I'm going to go to England. You know what I mean? We need to get back to having a direction that the club is wanting to take us, and that seems to be missing. And that's all I'm asking is, what direction are the club taking us? Because the one consistent thing that's been there has been the backroom staff. Changing the managers hasn't changed our success in Europe. Changing managers hadn't changed their success in Europe. Ernest says, Lenny back. Oh, Lenny back. You cannot be serious. Lenny in the showers. Lenny in the wrong direction. Lenny is the wrong direction. Steve Clark would be boring, but would do better in Europe. I don't want to see Celtic being boring, playing boring football. It's not the Celtic way. And I think he's one guy that probably wouldn't get offered the Celtic job again. I think when you're offered it once, that's kind of it. That's your chance. And when you're offered the job once and you decide not to take it, and there was all the things said that he wasn't offered it when he was offered the Scotland job, but he made it clear to Celtic that he was considering other options before he wanted to speak to them, and then he decided to take the Scotland job after being successful, you'd say, to a certain extent, at Kilmarnock. Big Bruce says the right direction is always sideways is best. Most likely downhill based on what has been shown this season. Sideways is best. Sideways, left, right, passing the ball sideways. Is that really the direction that the club are going? I hope that the club would turn around and say, look, the club have to come out and tell the fans, especially as it's coming up to season ticket renewal time. And that's an important time of the season for any football club. And they always play on the heartstrings. And they always usually come out with it just around the time if we've just won the league, if everything's going well. And then they always try and get it in. Remember the days that you used to finish the league, you used to finish the current season, and then you would get your transfer renewals. It's getting earlier and earlier, and it's getting more expensive for the fans. Celtic fans deserve better. Celtic fans deserve to know the direction. And this is and I know that the Celtic media will be watching this, and it's a case of the fans need to know. The questions need to be asked. Other fan media that go to these press conferences need to start asking the question. It's getting next to the money shot of the season. Yes, this is where things are won. And don't give me this bullshit, wait to the end of the season. No, because you're going to ask, Celtic are going to ask exactly for £600 and plus for the cheapest seats at Celtic Park. They're going to be asking for hundreds and thousands of pounds from fans up front before we even finish the season. Celtic fans deserve to know what direction the club is going in, whether it be managerial, whether it be backroom staff, whether it be ambition, whether it be the type of player that we want to get in. You know, the status quo is not any good anymore. The status quo is not any good. It's as simple as that. It is as simple as that. Which keeper do we go for? Very important we get this right. Exactly. El Papa Francesco. Good evening to you. Colin is laughing at Michael Ross. Ewan Boy Martin says we need to start signing 6 plus players. Exactly. If we truly want to compete in Europe. Yes. I think you see other teams do it, and I'm not a heightist in any manner of means, because you look at Messi. I mean, if you look at Messi, he's hardly the biggest player, but he's got something about him. You know what I mean? He can play football. Not all the tallest player. We definitely need height in the defence. We need height in the defence and a tall striker. And a tall striker that can that can hold himself within boxes, that's got a bit of upper body strength about him and isn't scared to get fucking stuck right in about it. When you get in players like that, we pay the 10 million for Kelleher. Exactly. I think that's what it's going to come down to. New board, three or four quality players, and we can compete in Europe. But this is what we asked for under Ange Postecoglou's last season. We knew we needed 3 or 4 players to make that team better. Now that was taken out of the equation that we might lose 1 or 2 players. If we managed to keep that team together, if we managed to keep Jota, if we had managed to keep, even said, if one of the Japanese players that's fantastic in midfield had a good season, but he hasn't had a good season. He's been injured. His form was absolutely ranked rotten. Well, we're all saying, well, we can't wait for Rio Hatate to get back. But David Turnbull was in better form than Rio Hatate at the beginning of the season. That's why David Turnbull got the shout before Rio Hatate, because his form was better. His form was better in pre-season. Everybody said the first game of the season, how can you not play Rio Hatate? And it's like, well, did you watch any of the pre-season games? Because David Turnbull was the standout player pre-season compared to Rio Hatate. He was very poor. And everyone thought, oh, his head must be down because he thought he was going to be leaving. And he thought that as well. There was speculation that he was going to leave, but no one came in for him. No big move came in for him, and then he ends up signing another contract. But anyway, this is what Celtic fans need to know. It's coming up to that time of the season where they're going to ask for hundreds of thousands of pounds from Celtic fans. They're going to be asking for, if you're paying it in the 3 instalments, you pay it in the 3 instalments, you're going to ask for the first instalment early into the summer. And you know, if you're paying it up front, if you're paying it in a lump sum, you're going to be parting with that cash before this season's even finished. Shouldn't we be asking the direction of the club and the club's going in? It's just a question that I'm putting out there. Let's get back to what some of the fans, some of the users saying on here. Stuart Ramsey says, we need to get defence right, but we need to be able to move a ball quickly. We do that. We need to get a keeper that can move it out quick for the back. This nonsense that Ange Postecoglou brought in with passing it out at the back and playing slow. I mean, good European teams can play that style of football, but it's not the Celtic way. It's get the ball out as quick as you can, get it out to the wingers and attack up the field. You know, when the ball comes in, if they've got a corner and we get the ball, the keeper gets the ball, move it quick. Don't let them run back 30, 40 yards and then decide, oh, we're going to kick the ball out now. Well, you've let them gain 40 yards, get the ball out to the wingers, this fast attacking football that Celtic used to play. Anyway, Brendan is not giving Hatate enough love, Baz. He knows Hatate, he knows his ability. Do you think he's giving Hatate tough love? We all know his ability, but he's never done it this season. No, anyway, we move on from that. No chance of any fan media asking tough questions. They're still trying to get a career out of it. They may as well be working for the Daily Record, says Greg. Oh, jeez. I'm totally with you with that one, Greg. I am totally with you with that one. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to deny it. But it is, I mean, every Celtic channel is good. Actually, I might do a video one night. I might do a video about, because people think that you can make a lot of money off this stuff. And I know how I've got, and I'll be honest, I've got about 5 channels that I run. Um, and I am registered here as working in the film industry, believe it or not, through the tax system. Anyway, that's I might do a video about that, just purely just to upset the apple cart, because I know what most channels make financially, but then they have their offshoots, and a lot of the channels aren't even owned by the people that do them. Anyway, that's a video for another day. Stuart Ramsey says, at the moment, shit, every time a high ball comes in, yes, we are. Livewell's ego. That's a fantastic fucking. That's a fantastic channel. Do you know what you need to do? You need to do loads. Just go through loads of Peter Lawwell stuff and just make videos about Peter Lawwell and just totally taking the piss out of him. Ronnie Dyler started passing out pish. Ronnie Dyler, remember, was brought in as a number 2 for Celtic. He was brought in as number 2 to work beside Neil Lennon initially. Initially, he was brought in as a number 2, and that was going to be the plan. It was going to be succession planning, but Lennon fucked it up and we didn't really win the cup, so yeah, he ended up getting the job full time, which wasn't expected. Anyway, we need you picked Messi over Jinky Baz. Aye, but I'm thinking about modern day players though. I mean, Jinky was small, but it was back in a time where players weren't 6'4". There wasn't many 6'4", 6'5" players playing against Jinky that were absolute colossals. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking about modern era. In modern era, Messi's had to deal with defenders that are 6'5". And I mean, I think you'd be lucky if you got somebody that was 6 foot back in Jinky's day. I mean, Jinky was a wee player and he was good, but there wasn't many 6'5" players in those days, I wouldn't have thought. In Scottish football terms. Anyway, Baz, I watched the last. Oh, Stephen, you can't say that. The difference in quality is frightening, to be honest. The difference in quality. Potter never come to us. No, I've got hope. No idea. It's all about, apart from Forest, what is it with Celtic who sign shit keepers? I have no idea. No idea. And then Ian McIntosh says Potter was always destined to garden leave. G-Boy67 says it'll be the very same board next season in charge and as this one. And folk are expecting to be different. It's going to be disappointed. Exactly. And this is why I'm saying that Celtic need direction. Celtic fans need some kind of direction from the board because it is coming up to season book renewal time. And Celtic are going to be asking for fantastic money. Just in the same week, it's probably going to be weeks. They've just asked to fork out hundreds of pounds on a new kit. And to be honest, you'll get some folk that will go out and buy the whole fucking selection of that Ireland selection. But when it comes to the season book money, that's where a big chunk of the club's money comes from. And it's us that pay it. So we do need direction on what direction are you? And they'll turn around and say, oh, well, we'll talk about that at the AGM. Fuck the AGM. We need to know now. We need to know now before the end of the season. We need to know now before we start parting with their cash. And that's the only question that I'm asking this evening. Sadly, Dom, we'll probably need to lose the league to get money out the board, which has happened before. There always seems to be this period of managed decline where if they were playing poker, they would have the worst poker face on the planet and everybody would be able to read them. Anyway, Game Machine says, Inter Milan had a team of giants and they ran amok. Yeah, but I'm talking about in Scottish football. The Old Firm Derby. There is no Old Firm Derby. It's the Glasgow Derby. Anyway. So, tell me what you think in the comments about the way that the club is going. We spoke about, at the beginning, for people that are late joining, we spoke about managers that have been at the height of their game. Managers like Jose Mourinho. Who took everything that he used to touch. Every club that he went to would win the league and he would win the Champions League. He's fallen down the pecking order and has he not just been sacked by Roma? I'm not too sure. I haven't even looked at him. But then when I look at the Spanish league and we look at the team that the one and only Carl Starfelt went to, Carl Starfelt was expecting to be top 6 in Spain. He finds himself at a club that are 17th in the league, above Cadiz, that's only known for its food and its tapas, Granada, which is known for its skiing resort, in the Sierra Nevada. That's the only people. That's only Granada does have a cracking tapas culture. But most people go to Granada to go to the ski resort, and then Almeria, that's a little fishing village. There was absolutely no chance of those three clubs came up last season, and they were all going to go down into the relegation zone this season. Celta Vigo, they've just sacked their manager, Rafa Benitez. Rafa Benitez, an elite manager that's been up there, and they would have thought, yeah, Rafa Benitez has won the Champions League. Rafa Benitez has won the Champions League as an elite manager. He's done it with Liverpool back in 2005. He can do things with us, and he hasn't. A bit like Brendan Rodgers, who was once an elite manager at Liverpool, who came to us and was quite successful, and then he went to Leicester. Although he did have a little bit of success, you could say, at Leicester. When it comes down to it, he's losing his Midas touch. Celtic need to come out and say, if Brendan Rodgers is going to be here next season, is he going to get some serious kind of money to spend? And then it then comes down to the question of backroom staff. Do we need better backroom staff? Harry Kewell has left Celtic. Harry Kewell has left Celtic, and he has got his team, Yokohama, into the latter stages of the Champions League in Asia. He's got his team into the later stages of the Champions League in Asia. So what's going wrong at Celtic? Why can't we even just get past Christmas when it comes down to it in Europe? Anyway, how long have I been on? Way too long. And then not as many views as I'd hoped for tonight, but never mind. It's the first night back after a couple of nights off. It's always the same. I'm going to finish the channel there tonight. Soneris says, I think there are players not happy with Brendan Rodgers' system. It's pretty much the same system as Ange Postecoglou, so 4-3-3. So I don't know how you could say that they can't be happy with the system. It's the exact same as what Ange played, a 4-3-3. Take Lenny before Rafa. I wouldn't take Rafa or Lenny. I think my point is do elite managers fall from grace? Not every manager is an Alex Ferguson, but even towards the end of Alex Ferguson's career, Alex Ferguson wasn't as successful. So Anyway, Klopp elite, Pep elite. That is it. That is it. In today's market, elite managers win multiple European trophies. This is true. This is true. Rodgers is the same as he ever was. Only when we were winning, he was lapped up. Angelotti says pork chop. Angelotti. Tommy Gettle was 6'2". Yeah, but there wasn't many 6'2" running about Scottish football as there is today. Today, the percentage of people that are 6 foot and over is probably about 90% of Scottish players that play in the Scottish League are over 6 foot. Just putting it out there. Hit the thumbs up, said Lorna. Cheers, troops. Baz, have a good night. Will do. Elite, lot of bull. A manager is only good as his last trophy. Exactly. Brendan Rodgers hasn't won any trophies with Celtic this season. Mourinho has made more money getting sacked than he has ever won. I don't think that's probably true. Desmond Donner says, good chat, Baz. Would respect your views. Remember, guys, recommendations for Baz, Tom, US only. Dunlorna says, Stuart Ramsey. Green Machine says, let's finish the season with a double and then we'll see what happens. That is still my aim, is to finish the season with a double. And if it finishes the season with a double, it'll be a fantastic season. But the questions will still be there. These questions, what direction are Celtic taking us? That question will still be there. That question won't change. Even if we win the double, that question won't change. We need to know. Celtic fans have went through Groundhog Day for years now. We'll invest in Europe. We don't do anything in Europe. We invest. We win the league. We don't do anything in Europe. It's Groundhog Day. We need a change of direction. We need a serious change of direction. And does that come down to the backroom staff? Does it come down to manager? Does it come down to the boardroom? And on that note, have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans all around the world. And that's us done and dusted for another night.